day of treating horses, early start. I'm going to be driving 2 hours down to Liverpool. I don't know, I'm not sure if you know where that is in the UK, but compared to where I'm in the Midlands, it's a good 2 hours west, if I get my geography right. So first things first, I'm going to share with you is food prepping for the day, because let's face it, if we rely on the foods that are out there in the fuel stations, things like that, we're not fueling our body properly. Let's go. I always start my meal prepping the day before. So the first thing for me is actually making foods that don't go off, but also foods that will last through the day. So first of all, we have got some oats. These oats are awesome. Put that over there. So the most important thing I like to do is fill myself up with protein that's going to fuel me for the day. So in here we've got protein powder, the best source, and we've got some oats, we've got some pumpkin seeds and nuts and chia seeds, and I'm going to add on some beige yogurt as well. I am using the scales, but I'm using scales because I'm tracking and monitoring how much protein I get. Besides being an animal lover and chiropractor, I also work with ladies that are suffering from anything from like struggling to lose weight, if the energy flat, if they're struggling to just function every day, because let's face it, most of us don't know how to eat to fuel our bodies. A lot of us either starve ourselves thinking that that's the best way to lose weight, or we go on these severe calorie controlled diets, which only end up making our relationship with food pretty bad. So this is like the end result. It's delicious. So that will probably be food for me from about 2 p.m. onwards, and that will last me long because of the slow releasing effects of the nutrients in here. Let's move on to actually some breakfast before we leave. These kind of days really make me feel a bit uneasy, and I tell you why. I love the job, I love working with horses, I love working with dogs. It's the bits in between, so the driving, potentially being stuck in traffic for a couple of hours, it's that bit that I think, oh my gosh, you know, I mean, if you're someone who actually enjoys being stuck in traffic, please comment below and let me know. However, for me, being stuck in traffic is just something to get my head around. But I'm actually really looking forward to the clients I'm seeing today. The first one is going to be a pony, which is a super talented pony. He has been to Hoys, which is like, it's called Horse of the Year show here in the UK. And then the other one is a fantastic competition yard that people that just get you and you get them. And this is the thing with anything in life, it's surrounding yourself with people that are A, like-minded, but that B, that you thrive off each other. And a lot of the clients that I do work with, what we preach and practice is teamwork. So it'll be me, it'll be the vet, it'll be the physio, it'll be the farrier, the saddle fitter, and that's the magic, especially when it comes to that 1% better in your performance with your horse. A lot of people are so focused on what's going wrong, but half the time we're all doing our best. Half the time we are doing the very best for our horse, and our horses are trying. So it's all about that coming together as a teamwork to make just a little thing better that will actually dramatically improve your performance. And that's what I love working with, especially the team, the clients I'm going to see today, is the real teamwork approach where, if anything, we all come together, we have no egos. I mean, even one of the riders is a test certificate rider, and that means that she does a lot of exercises herself before actually getting on a horse. So she will warm up her hip flexors, she will mobilize whatever area of her body that her physio has identified as a weakness. That's then reported to me, and the same thing happens. So they have vet checks, which is a resident vet to come and check the horses every 6 weeks, because they're competing at a very high level. And like I said, it's that 1% to not only improve your performance, but you know, especially when you're riding your horse, you're seeing your horse every day, you'll know that 1% that's potentially affecting you, or you've noticed a change in your horse. And the quicker you find out what that is and that why, the quicker you will improve your performance. Does that make sense? So a lot of what I do is coming together with the team, giving my opinion based on my clinical reasons and my observation of what I'm seeing in front of me. However, there's no one size fits all. Before anything is taken into action, we come together as a team, discuss the best course of action, and that is why the results speak for themselves. And that's when we really get, we progress quicker from where we want to go, because it's not just one opinion there, like one opinion there, which only ends up leaving you, the owner, frustrated. But actually also as a therapist, being honest, if an owner says to me, well, the farrier said that and the physio said that, and that's contradictory, the first thing I'm going to do is say, right, let's pick up the phone and let's have a conversation. And it's just so that we are all on the same page, which again gives you, the owner, clarity. But most importantly, because we're doing it for the best of the horse, all of us, no matter what your qualification is, if you're in the professional, if you're working as a professional in this industry, you've done it because you love animals. And that's what I always remind myself of. We're all here for the common ground of the love of the horse. Coffee time. So I used to be someone that also would love stopping at like Starbucks, stopping at all these different coffee places. But not only does that add up in cost, a lot of the coffee that they're serving you is actually not good quality coffee. And also, more importantly, it's covered in seed oils to make things last longer. If you want to know more about seed oils, I actually have another YouTube page which is based solely on helping females improve their health, and I give you the tools to remove these seed oils from your diet in a practical way that would genuinely change your life. Back to this. So what I like to do is make myself coffee for the day, and then I also take these with me, which are organic. They are mint tea bags, so when I'm at a yard, I'll just boil the kettle and have my mint tea, as opposed to relying on more caffeine to fuel me for the day. Going back on the conversation of like foods, how many of you were told that you need to be having skimmed milk for, and semi-skimmed because fat is bad for you? False. So I've actually got some lovely Graham's family dairy, and it's full fat milk, as it should be. So we've got the coffee on the go, we've got the oats that's been prepared, fill up the water bottle, and then I'm going to make myself some breakfast for now. Sourdough bread, again something that I had to switch from, because I believed everything that was out there about eating brown bread and grain bread. And again, if you start to just do one thing, just look at the back of the ingredients of the food you're eating, you will quickly see that if there's more than like 5, even 10 ingredients, just literally put that away and put it in the bin, or don't buy it. Cottage cheese, again, full fat, none of this no fat malarkey. And again, as I said, I am weighing my protein amount, so I'm going to have about 100 grams of my cottage cheese. I like to do things on the go, so as you can see, I'm weighing everything as I'm going. I'm not doing it separately to save me some time. I'm about to share a secret with you, and this is again something that I'm teaching when I work with my females, which is if you're constantly snacking, and let's face it, when you're stuck in the car all day, it's more likely to snack. So here's the secret: carrots, some vegetable. So I've actually got some sugar peas here. The magic ingredient is apple cider vinegar. This has got acetic acid in it, which if you have as a starter before any of your meals, especially first thing in the morning, you will slow down your glucose spike, which will make you crave less. I mean, game changer. You're like, I've got too many things going on now. Here we go. So, genuinely, all I'm gonna do is chop up these carrots in chunky pieces. I don't know if you find this, but if you eat, like, for example, an apple on its own, you can demolish that apple very quickly. Well, I surely can. However, if you chop that apple up into small pieces, So it's the same apple just chopped up. You will find that you don't eat it as quickly, but B, you feel fuller for longer. And that's genuinely because if you're someone who like restricts your meals, you'll find that you'll end up feeling more hungry when you do eat, because your hormones are ravenous and you're like, I need food. Whereas if you cut things up into little pieces like this, apple cider vinegar, so I'm just going to use like the lid, you'll find that you'll eat slower, which once we've eaten, it takes about 20-30 minutes for our brain and gut to register that, okay, we've eaten and we're full. So there you go, there's another meal done. Just currently sat in the car waiting for it to defrost because it's 0 degrees at the moment, and yeah, not only is that freaking cold, I've got to wait for the car to defrost. So the current journey time is saying 1 hour and 15 minutes. Let's see that it actually stays true to function, true to form, and finally I can see the car is defrosted. Okay, let's go. I'm not going to be filming my driving for obvious reasons. However, I will see you at the first stop. Just finished at my first client, and yes, I am on hands-free so I can talk. Fascinating so I've not seen this pony in a few months, and a few things happened. So in a good way, winter's been here in the UK, which means that he has had an easier time, which is not a bad thing. And it also begs the question of, you know, should we be giving our horses time off? It's in the like training perspective I'm doing at the moment with my coach is I'm having a deload week. So my deload week is not training as hard. I'm still going through the motions of going to the gym, but I'm doing less and I'm not pushing any PBs. I'm allowing my body to rest. I'm allowing my body to reboot. You know, you could even say take one step further and say have a deload week where you just don't go to the gym at all, and you move. Obviously, movement is key. Walking, maybe do some yoga, and eat nutritious food. And this has kind of happened with this pony over the winter. He's had some time off, which has done him good. He's still young, he's growing, and I really respect this owner for that. I really do. We've had the talk about now he's a lead rein pony, and it's fascinating when you actually think about what a lead rein pony has to do. I mean, the showing world is unique in what it is, and obviously it's very subjective to what the judge likes. They'll have their requirements. That's not my point. My point being, when it comes to these ponies, you know, they've got young kids on them, which is, we've all got to start somewhere, and it's so exciting for the young girl. And this lovely owner has said, right, I want him to be schooled in between so that we can help him. And she's very aware that her daughter is so young, and she hasn't got the strength or the skills yet to be able to ask this horse or this pony to be working over his back. So she's got another rider in, and it's only happened once. There's no hard feelings here about this rider. There's no like bad talk, anything. I don't believe in that at all. The point I'm making is, when we're getting professional riders, more experienced riders in that, let's face it, have longer legs that can just wrap it around the horse's body, you know, then we ask ourselves, right, what's the intention here? And I think it's so important to have this conversation with the rider, because yes, the rider's more experienced, so it can help the horse with the aids and teach them the basics of, you know, working over their back, which is so fundamental for the horse, but also not become heavy in the contact. Now you might be saying, well, no horse should be heavy in the contact, and I totally agree. However, I don't know if any of you have seen some of the showing world riders when they're warming their ponies up, and you know, it's like side reins, the horse's head are really, really like fixed in, which is awful and definitely questions welfare for sure. So when we're asking these ponies to be ridden by adults, the question I had was, well, what's our intention? Because our intention is, or again, I'm happy to be questioned, is to educate the young horse progressively in walk for a period of time, and then trot, and eventually canter. However, to be done in such a way that's not forced and not have any pressure. Now, this lady totally agrees with me, which is amazing, and we had a fantastic talk. However, this is where I think teamwork is important, because my opinion is, you know, I have found what I have found today, so to communicate that to the rider and then have a game plan. So it's not just come up and ride the pony around in circles. It's, okay, we've got the game plan going forward, because this is where he is in his skeletal maturity. We ride the body of the horse. So what we don't want to do is create any form of tension in the mouth, the neck, because when that little girl gets on, who hasn't got the legs yet, we don't want to make a horse heavy or have strong contact, because that little girl will not be able to maintain it. But not only that, because we don't want that, it's that the pony will get confused. So having these open conversations with owners, riders, other professionals, you know, other physiotherapists, chiropractors, trainers, for me is fundamental to improving any horse's education and transforming their body, is being all on the same page and being very open and honest with one another. So I loved the conversation we had. It was so, what's the word I'm looking for? Rewarding, but also it really gets me happy and energized to think that we're all on the same page of helping the horse. Another really interesting point was, let's see if I can move my stick this end. Another interesting point was these equi-core bands. Now, if you've used the equi-core band with your horse, let me know and comment below, because I'd love to know. These equi-core bands are great. You know, they have like a belly band and a bum band and all that malarkey. However, the question I have is, they don't come with instruction manual, because why don't they come with instruction manual? Because they probably know, or maybe they don't know, that there is a process, a 100% process when it comes to having a horse in these bands. And I always question myself and think, should the horse even be in the equi band? You know, should we allow them to, and show them how to find their balance naturally without any form of pressure? Like, that would be my way. If you're someone that says, no, my horse is at the stage now and it's recommended to have a band on, in my opinion, the first thing I would do is assess your horse, give you honest feedback, and generally I start with the band around the core first, and then over time, and when I mean over time, I mean sometimes that can take 3-4 months to progressing to having it on the band on the bum as well. We always have to ask ourselves, like, what's our point? Why are we doing that? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do we need to put that band on? Do you ever feel like, I've just got something in my eye, besides my eyeball and my contact. Do you ever feel like you're missing something? You know, when you've tried the vet route, you've tried the chiropractor route, you've tried the physio route, you've tried the 10th saddle that's cost you now more than probably £20,000, because let's face it, saddles are very much overpriced nowadays. You've tried the different boots, you've tried the different tack, you've tried the specialized bridle, and your horse still isn't right. What do you do? This and these thoughts and questions are, in my opinion, becoming more and more common, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough as a professional industry, and it's not good enough because at the end of the day, we're all doing it for the horses, right? We're all doing it for the love of the horse, and if we're not getting, if our horse is not sound and performing well, we're not doing a good enough job. That's very much the kind of theory that I'm working on and what I believe. I actually realised my thingy wasn't on. My mic wasn't on. Those of you, I'm sure, have heard of the ethogram from Sue Dyson. An amazing written ethogram to identify like if the horse is doing a certain thing with its face or certain thing with its tail, whatever part of its body is, that will indicate some form of pain. Wouldn't it be amazing to have an ethogram of tacking up, or an ethogram of saddle fitting, or an ethogram of getting your horse removed from the field, and picking up and knowing those patterns of when they are in pain or when they are in discomfort, because the horses are always talking to us. It's just we're missing patterns. Or maybe we see that something isn't right, but we don't know what that means. If you resonate with that, comment below. The first horse I saw was a Pre-St. George horse, and I absolutely love this team because it's a real approach of listening to one another. Before I got my hands on him, I watched him walk. I watched him from the moment the rider took off his rug, listening to what she's saying the whole time. Also, please be kind to me here because I'm trying out this new form of filming and it's a little bit all over the place, but I will get better and give you guys better vlogs of treatment. So a lot of what I did here was going straight away onto the shoulder girdle because first of all, this horse is at a phenomenal level. He's training very hard. However, his rider, his owner, is so clued up. So they notice the finest and the 1% say restriction that might be blocking him and causing him an issue. So a lot of what I did here was just feeling, palpating, looking into more of the fascia. I'm always watching his behavior. Look at him, how he's nuzzling his rider, his handler. Now that lady there is the lady who knows him better than anyone else. I always, before I treat, look at the entire horse. So I'm comparing right to left. Again, I'm listening to her here, come back to the right side, looking at every single joint in isolation, but then also understanding that they're all linked. And a lot of us tend to treat in isolation. However, I'm a big believer in function. How is this joint functioning, and is it actually worth me doing an adjustment? This is all linked to obviously the gait, or I'm watching them move, watching them in the arena, and then I'm linking that back to what I'm feeling in a static assessment and palpation. We did a lot of work here on looking into the shoulder girdle. It is one of the most complex areas in a horse. It's so intricated. It's so, the amount of nerve endings, the amount of fascia, the amount of muscle in this area is so often overlooked. And actually, I think often underdiagnosed. As you can see here, I'm working into his elbow. Now look at the drop on his head. Look at the head and neck carriage. Again, I'm referring this back to the rider, checking into what she's feeling from when she's riding. All the time watching the horse, watching his behavior. But can you see? Look at him, he turns, he's talking to me, he nudges me. I'm working on a trigger point behind the elbow, and I'm watching him very carefully. Now I'm informing the rider of what I'm feeling, again linking this back to what she's feeling. My job is to ask questions, give my knowledge, but also provide a solution that is part of her training and part of the team's approach. When I feel like owners, riders get confused, overwhelmed and frustrated is when we're not seeing from the same hem sheet. Now that doesn't mean that you can disagree as a practitioner. I'm a big believer in asking questions. However, when you have, say, a strong opinion, that's interesting, see how he lifted his leg, I didn't ask him to lift his leg, and that's when I applied pressure behind that right elbow again. Before I treat, I'm just going down the neck, the cervical, making sure there's no trigger points, doing a little bit of mobilization, little bit reactive at the base of the neck into the C5, C6 area. And again, without going too much into anatomy here, what I want you guys to take from this video is that I'm always going back to the horse, watching his behavior, checking in with the rider, seeing what she's seeing what she's feeling, seeing if what I'm feeling resonates with what she says. Again, my biggest indicator is not what I believe, it's the horse's behavior. Always watching, assessing, asking questions and then adjusting accordingly. This is how I approach any single horse, no matter if they are a Grand Prix dressage horse, an international show jumper, or a beautiful little Falabella in the field as a kid's pony. I treat them all the same questioning, with the same holistic approach. Whatever I do on one side, I do the other side, just again for a comparison of functionality. A lot of the early days of my treatment was very much focused on symmetry. Is it symmetrical? Now I am the complete opposite. I'm thinking to myself the whole time, is this joint functioning? Is this joint functioning in relation to the joint, above it, below it, next to it? How are the muscles feeling? This for me is a much more practical approach to treatment, because aiming for symmetry for me is totally unrealistic when we as riders are not symmetrical. How can we expect that from our horses as well? And also, does a horse having symmetry mean that they are sound? That's the other question I like to ask. I'm just doing a little bit of a shoulder girdle release here. It's a very light movement. It's a very light approach to treatment. But again, what I'm doing is every source of pressure is I'm watching him very carefully. Everything is about timing for me. Everything is about being in the present moment, not being in my head, and listening to what his body and his behavior is telling me. You'll see the lowering of the head. I look for things like the licking and chewing, the nostrils, the muzzle, the eyes, the ears, all of these signs that seem subtle, but actually is his way of communicating. Let's move on to the back end now. And again, you can see that the device I'm using has just slightly lost its focus, because it should be following me around. And obviously I was a little bit focused on what was in front of me that I totally forgot to change the angle initially. So my apologies, guys, but I am going to get better and better at providing you guys more information and value when it comes to what I do as an animal therapist. Before I treat, what's the first thing I do is I get my hands on, I'm feeling. I'm obviously also referring back to what I saw in the gait assessment. So I saw this horse, not only in a straight line on the hard ground, thinking in my head, right, what am I seeing in front of me before I go into what am I feeling? What am I feeling from a flexion, from an extension, general joint range of motion perspective. Comparing left to right, again referring back to what I saw in the gait assessment, and always asking questions to the rider. Those subtle changes or disuniting movements in the arena could be the horse communicating, could be the horse telling us that something isn't right. And it's our responsibility as therapists to question absolutely everything and work as a team. I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep on going. Teamwork, as cheesy as it sounds, makes the dream work. It's honestly how I feel and believe and can see the biggest results is coming together. So a lot of what I'm doing is this teamwork holistic approach. Now, this was for me a really like a maintenance treatment for this boy. He's in full competition, he's in full work, and it was a really successful appointment. The next horse pony, this little lady, she actually came to me, so her owner boxed her over. I've seen her before, however the owner noticed a big change in her behavior the last 3 weeks. So we deep dived into her assessment, into what I was listening to the owner, into what the owner was saying, but also the trainer. And then we identified one area, particularly in the left hind pelvic girdle, but then obviously everything's not in isolation. So this was linked to her lumbar spine. I also do a combination of some laser treatment. The key that I'm always thinking though is, am I making a difference for the functionality of this horse, as opposed to, as we said before, symmetry. My next client was actually in the arena because we had the saddle fitter there, and we had a joint appointment with the trainer, the saddle fitter, and myself, assessing from all angles. Again, like I said, I'm practicing what I'm preaching. This for me is a fantastic opportunity because sometimes what you see as a practitioner from the ground on the lunge is not what the rider is feeling, and the obvious reason here is tack, weight, pressure of the rider. So these appointments I absolutely love because, again, that collaborative approach means that we can get to a solution a lot quicker. Really fundamental. There's a couple more horses which I didn't manage to film before I head back, and I want to get that sunrise. Look at that amazing sunset. So home, showered, obviously working outside all day in the cold, the first thing I want to do is get warm. I'm now in my dressing gown, as you can see, very glamorous, but the reality of being a horsey girl working out in the cold all day, you want to come back, put something really warm on and snuggle up. For me now, it's a case of doing my reports. I've got 6 reports to do. This is a report of what I found from the assessment perspective, from the actual full body treatment perspective, and then also the exercises, because for me it's the aftercare that's fundamental to ensuring the treatment has obviously had an effect, but also that the treatment lasts long. And by that I mean, if there has been any change in the body needs time to adapt. The body's constantly healing. So the worst you can go and do is do what you've always done and expect a different result. So a lot of the exercises I do with my clients is prescriptive, tailored, so that they know what they're doing for the next 2 weeks. The first lady we saw today, she's getting a plan for the next 8 weeks to help that pony progress in his work. That's it. Thanks for watching and joining me for a full day of work with horses across the country of the UK.